Ambedkar was calling. Is it a sick nation? We are living in a sick society. जहाँ लोग किसी भी तरीके से एक दूसरे के साथ नहीं आ रहे हैं, किसी भी तरीके से एक दूसरे के दुख दर्द को नहीं समझने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं. If we go by the government's own data, they are saying very happily, and I would say seamlessly, that 80 crores of Indians are not able to have food on their own. That either you should have education, or you should have wealth, or you should have weapons. These three things he was saying very clearly. Either of these three can make changes. But in India, to have that particular threshold, it was really near to impossible that the communities which have been excluded, to use the term, they were denied absolute access to wealth, education, and very importantly, Ambedkar mentioned it, the weapons. Thank you, dear Umud and friends. It's really a matter of joy and happiness to be amongst you and sharing some of my views. And that too on a very special occasion, on a very special issue, which is really central to all what we have been living all these years, as Pramod was saying. I can see a lot of very familiar, friendly friends, friendly faces here, and it's really very good. It makes me really happy. So before I start my presentation, maybe 25? So, social exclusion, past and present. And the basic question comes to us, social exclusion of whose social exclusion? From where? How it happens? How it's being executed? And then we have so many theories, so many discussions. I would not be really taking up all those theories which have been propounded by so many of friends from India and outside, concentrating on what Ambedkar premises on this particular theme. Exclusion seems to be very mild if we take Ambedkar's understanding. Maybe a bit novice. The kind of problem he is addressing, the kind of issue he is dealing with, it's nothing less than annihilation. It's nothing less something which the whole community of now we have revised the formulas. When he was talking about almost 6 crores of people at that point of time, now it has gone much beyond. And now the exclusion is of almost everybody. Exclusion of almost every Indian. From power positions, from the positions of prestige, from the positions of prosperity. So the basic strategic resources which are backbone of any society, any community, any economy, any system. Power, prestige and prosperity, people have been excluded, not in a very, just like for the sake of excluding and you can have other resources, but they have been systematically excluded for good, generations after generations. Dr. Ambedkar was very clear why it has happened and why there is no way out. Then he was saying, for any community to really come up, any community to really make dent, it is necessary we have, as Pramod was also indicating, that either you should have education, or you should have wealth, or you should have weapons. These three things he was saying very clearly. Either of these three can make changes. But in India, to have that particular threshold, it was really near to impossible that the communities which have been excluded, to use the term, they were denied absolute access to wealth, education, and very importantly, Ambedkar mentioned it, the weapons. And if you do not have any of these things, then why, when he was answering the question why caste exploitation or caste discrimination continues in this country, and more importantly, why there has been no revolution in this country? Because those who are victims of the system, they must have some weapons. Weapons means weapons of liberation. And he was talking about military weapons also. So, education and wealth as two other weapons. But then we have a beautiful constitution, and we thought that everything will be in the hope of expiation, in the hope of good so-called change by theory, that everything will be good in India and people will be given what they were promised to in pre-independent or pre-47 era. But situation doesn't really seems to have much difference. So far as the real decision making, the real distribution of property, the real distribution of power, prestige and prosperity is concerned in this country. Though living standards have really gone up, but those standards have also seen wide gap, not only differences, but lots of disparity. And still, if we go by the government's own data, they are saying very happily, and I would say seamlessly, that 80 crores of Indians are not able to have food on their own. So that is something which was not our slogan in pre-47 era. We were told that everybody will be happy, at least will be having food and will be having clothes and shelter. But something very drastic has happened in this country, and there seems to be no inclusion, so-called inclusion, in the new India of people. And how it is being denied, that is a big question. Because now you have constitution. You have constitution, every Indian is having equal rights. But equal rights in the constitution really do not guarantee equal access to and equal standard of life that we have been witnessing in India. So what is the mechanism? What is the mechanism which we are facing? Or which the power that we, or the beneficiaries of the system, or the beneficiaries of the caste system, how they have been prolonging their if we can say, hegemony. Because not only it has weakened India's backbone, it has also weakened our moral fabric. Because as individuals, as maybe Mill was saying, that with dwarfed people you cannot really cannot have a strong nation. And that is what we have witnessed. And that what Ambedkar was saying, that independence of a country must not be confused with the independence of the people, independence of the citizens of that country. That seems to have, because as we have been using the framework of emancipation, empowerment and enlightenment, that people are not really emancipated from wants. There have been a lot of issues that even the basic amenities, the basic needs of the people have not been fulfilled. And that is total exclusion, the absolute abject exclusion from power centers, from the decision making. Not to talk about empowerment, because once your needs are fulfilled, once you have the basic resources in terms of education or employment or critical faculty, then you are empowered enough. You have that capability, you have that understanding where you can think the way an independent person can take decisions. Exactly that is happening in this country, that people are not able to think for themselves. Whether it's, you call it false consciousness, you call it fundamentalism, you call it whatever wish to, but they have been distracted. They have been distracted even from their basic needs. They are happily dying. They are happily dying. They are happily killing each other. This is something like almost slaves enjoying slavery. How it is happening? How it is happening? Whether Gramsci model of that hegemony, cultural hegemony is being applicable, or we have to use much stronger term like spiritual fascism, which a person like Khanchalaya used, that people are not really seem to be interested in coming out of the starvation, the abject starvation. लोग आपको नारे लगाते हुए मिलेंगे कि रोटी नहीं चाहिए, इस तरह के वीडियोस आपको मिल रहे हैं, कपड़े नहीं चाहिए. This is something, this is what Ambedkar was calling. Is it a sick nation? We are living in a sick society. जहाँ लोग किसी भी तरीके से एक दूसरे के साथ नहीं आ रहे हैं, किसी भी तरीके से एक दूसरे के दुख दर्द को नहीं समझने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं. So there is absolutely no empowerment of the people. And of course, if you do not have empowerment, if you really do not have that kind of agency which can change yourself and which can change others, then there is no point. Means one cannot liberate others also. What Paul Ferrero says, that it's not just the oppressed. In India, not only the oppressed have not been liberated, and it's not just the oppressed who have lost their humanity. I can really vouch for it that even the oppressors have lost their humanity. And when oppressed try to liberate themselves, then when they try to regain their humanity, when they try to become human, as Ambedkar was claiming that our struggle is basically for reclaiming our human personality, reclaiming our dignity. When the oppressed start reclaiming their human personality, their dignity, in the process they restore humanity of their oppressor also, because in the process of oppression for thousands of years, of course, the victims have become totally dehumanized. लेकिन जिन लोगों ने उन्हें जानवर के स्तर पे पहुंचाया है, वो इंसान नहीं हो सकते. In the process, they themselves have lost their humanity. They have become double, I would say, below animal conscious level. Because those who have been oppressed, they are at least having that advantage that they are not oppressing anybody else. लेकिन जो उनको oppress कर रहा है, जो उनको पूरी तरीके से dehumanize कर रहा है, not only he has dehumanized others, but in the process lost touch with the total human significance, and that is the basic crisis in India. That is the basic crisis, how to liberate the victims as well as the oppressors. Here comes Ambedkar's model, here comes Ambedkar's idea of maybe you can say what ultimately he refers to as Prabuddha India, or I would like to call it as enlightened democracy. Enlightened democracy, which not only depends, which not only visualize that nobody is follower, nobody is dependent on others. Everybody is self-sufficient, everybody is self-reliant, everybody has at least that acumen. When nobody is guiding, nobody is as I can see many political scientists also here and friends from literature, the Enlightenment Kant, which was talking about that people who really can take their own decisions without being guided. If people are in that position, and that in that position they can only reach when they have resources at their hand. What Ambedkar was saying, that they must have, or person like Mary Wollstonecraft is saying that at least they have minimum economic resources, they have that minimum education, they have that minimum employment guarantee, and that way things should be proper. So when we have enlightened democracy, it's not just the victims who have become empowered. But also they will ensure those who have lost their humanity. I'll just give one very small example. Maybe the caste system, people say caste system is bad, and it's bad for those who have been denied, say, education, or those who have been denied positions of power or access to economic activities. And some people, other people have been given that absolute right. कि भाई ठीक है, आप व्यापार कीजिए, आप राजनीति कीजिए, आप शिक्षा का ठेका लीजिए. कुछ लोगों को ये मिल गया है. लेकिन do you think those who are having ठेकेदारी on education or exclusive rights on education, they are happy? No, they are not. Something which has been forced upon you, the greatness has been thrust upon you, can never be naturally flourished. And that is one of the reasons why India has failed as a nation. There is no point what others are claiming outside, slow mirroring and all those things. विश्व गुरु जब होंगे देखा जाएगा. लेकिन अभी तो भाई जो सिचुएशन है उसको समझना चाहिए. You have indicators, ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडिकेटर्स जो हैं उस पर देखना चाहिए कि कितने गरीब हैं, कितने बेरोजगार हैं, कितने भूखे हैं, कितने नंगे हैं, कितने लोगों के पास बेसिक एमिनिटीज हैं. So on that account, we have to be very clear that we have failed the promise which we made in 1950 through this constitution. Constitutionalism has really not been true so far. So that way, कौन इसको कर सकता है, किसकी बेसिक जिम्मेदारी बनती है, क्योंकि 75 साल 75 years is a big span of time, and someone has to take responsibility for this failure. And I see ray of hope when the new system, new Indian system, which is far more democratic, which is far more inclusive, and how it is happening. We'll just take example of the universities, the higher education. So maybe before 30 years or so, institutions like DU or JNU or take any other higher education institutions, they were almost den of casteism. Why they were den of casteism? Because there was no diversity. There were no people from scheduled caste, scheduled tribes or OBC in these institutions. So whatever was being taught, we really do not know what was being taught there, but whatever was being taught to a very particular section. Even among the students, there were few. But somehow, students were there. But if you see the character of these institutions in last 60 years, what has happened? In last 30 years or so, say Delhi University started having sort of inclusive policy in 1997. So in these years, JNU started even later. I think it was also 98 or 97. So in all these years, there have been people from marginalized sections, the caste victims, they have entered into these institutions, and they have entered not just as individuals. They have entered as members of the community which has suffered. So they have come with their own baggage. And what is that baggage? I call that baggage as democratic baggage. I call that as they have come with an ideology of equality. They have come with an ideology of rationality, because these are the things which have been denied to them. These were the issues or the ideas which were denied to them for long. So when they come to these institutions, on the face of it, institution becomes, say, very diversified. And when we see the quality, then these teachers as well as the students, more so the teachers, these teachers are becoming harbinger of change, harbinger of diversity, of democracy, of spreading equal ethos. So that way, our classrooms, our decision-making institutions are becoming far more democratic. That is what actually Ambedkar was saying when he was addressing Constituent Assembly. If you give education to those who are already educated, an Indian system who are already casteist and educated, then it will be like strengthening the oppressor. But if you give education to those who have been denied, they will come to the center and they will create a system where everybody will have equal access to, where everybody will have equal opportunities, and system would become far more greater democratic. That is what Ambedkar was saying when he was saying that I really do not wish that our loyalties would be compromised in any way. Because those who have been on the forefront for long, though they were saying that we are the nationalists, we are for this nation, we are the harbinger of change and everything, but somewhere they were compromising on that particular identity or particular identity which can be of enlightened citizen. They really were not all for it. As Ambedkar was saying that they say we are Indian first and then maybe Muslims, maybe Christians, maybe Hindu later. He said, I don't want any compromise on that account. We must be Indian first and Indian last. How it is possible? It is only possible when you are, it's not necessary कि आप against हो उस चीज की अपनी identity के अपनी royalty के against हो, but that is the touchstone on which you can have your character testified, you can have your credentials testified, and if it is not, if it has not happened in India for last 75 years, it is because we are just claiming we are a nation, we are a nation. Ambedkar in 1936 was saying that let's accept that we are not a nation, we are just nation in making. I would still say that we are nation in making even today. We have not really forfeit all those primordial identities which are anti-national. Even today it would be difficult to identify a person who does not have one's caste identity. It would be difficult to identify a person who would happily say that I have never practiced casteism. It would be difficult in this country to say or to identify a person who can say that I have never been caste victims. So even if all these things are happening, even if nationally, means I can claim that I have not been a victim to the extent victims are there in the villages, in the rural areas. But even if it is nationally, even if it is on a, say, symbolic issues, it still exists. So in all these years, we have not really been true to, we have not been honest to the nation building project which this constitution was promising us to. And that way, the social inclusion model has failed in India. Social inclusion can only happen when those who are in the power positions have that basic human concern. When they are able to forfeit their primordial, their, say, अपनी कबीलाई पहचान को, अपने कबीलाई हित को छोड़ने के लिए अगर आप तैयार नहीं हैं, तो फिर आप राष्ट्र का निर्माण नहीं कर सकते हैं. You cannot build a nation on the premises of caste. Wherever you go, just not caste. Even now, poverty is there, communalism is there, and there are other issues. Multiple issues have really cropped up. That way, responsibility lies, as Ambedkar was saying, that responsibility lies with those who have been victims. They must not depend on that somebody would have change of heart, somebody would implement constitution for them, somebody would do good for them. This is no way social justice. There has to be something called social transformation, social change, social empowerment. Those who are victims, they must take control of the system. And when it is a democratic system, say legal political system, constitutional system, even number matters. If Delhi University is now having 10,000 teachers, and out of those 10,000 teachers, I would say not less than 4,500 come from that particular section which has been out of the educational institutions like SC, ST, OBCs. So when they have come to this institution, when they are going to parliament, when they are in the cabinet, when they are in all the institutions, now they must take that moral lead. Now they must respond to the responsibility which constitution or a person like Dr. Ambedkar or revolutionary like Savitribai Phule have put on their soldier, that the inclusion will happen only in your guidance. in your legacy. Nobody actually can liberate you. You are master of your own destiny. And I would end up here by saying that it's not just liberation, or if you want to use the inclusion of the oppressed, which is on the stake. It is humanity of the oppressed also. भाई जो जातिवादी लोग हैं, जो पूरे व्यवस्था पे अपना नियंत्रण करना चाहते हैं, जिनके पास सब कुछ है, वो भी खुश नहीं है, वो भी बहुत दुखी हैं। उनका भी उद्धार करने की जरूरत है। कोई कितना खाएगा भाई, कितना खाएगा भाई? एक ही व्यक्ति 10 गवर्निंग बॉडी का चेयरमैन नहीं बन सकता, वो भी परेशान है। उसकी भी मुक्ति चाहिए, उसे भी मुक्ति चाहिए, उसे भी इंसानियत होने का दर्जा दिया जाना चाहिए। कितनी आदमी 20-20 कमिटीज में बैठा हुआ है भाई, क्या हो रहा है? तो वो कह नहीं पा रहा है, उसको मुक्त करने की जरूरत है, उसे प्यार से मुक्त करने की जरूरत है, समझाने की जरूरत है। वो शर्म से या जो भी है, लालच से या समझ उसको नहीं है, उसको कहीं वहां से मुक्त करिए। ये कोई दूसरा नहीं करने वाला है। He need rest. उसका दिमाग खराब हो गया, वो नहीं चाहता था कि उसको जबरदस्ती उससे भाई उसके हाथ में तलवार दी जाए। उसके हाथ में उसको हल लेना था, उसको खेती करनी थी, उसको जानवर पालने थे, लेकिन जबरदस्ती आपने उसके हाथ में तलवार दे दी है, तो उसका दिमाग खराब हो गया। क्योंकि वो तलवार छोड़ नहीं सकता, इसलिए जो कोई हल पालता है वो उसके पीछे पड़ जाता है। दिस इज हाउ मेंटलिटी वर्क्स, साइकोलॉजी वर्क्स। यहाँ पे हजारों साल तक नहीं कर सकते ना भाई, हम भी कोई काम नहीं कर सकते। जबरदस्ती कोई नहीं पढ़ा सकता है हजारों साल तक, और जब जबरदस्ती नहीं पढ़ा सकता तो मूल जुलूल ही पढ़ाएगा, फिर वो नहीं समझ में आएगा उसको क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना। Therefore, in my own liberation, when I am liberating myself from those historical clutches and including into the mainstream constitutional setup, legal system, I am actually not only liberating myself, but I am liberating the oppressor also, which becomes our duty. वो अपने आप नहीं करेगा, हमारी सबकी ड्यूटी है कि सिस्टम डेमोक्रेटाइज हो जाए, इगैलिटेरियन हो जाए, ज्यादा मानवीय हो जाए। हमारी मुक्ति में ही सबकी मुक्ति है। थैंक यू।